that makes sense.
Awesome. Well, we are here at Tea Cooks at Royal Palms with Lee Hillson and Christina Barueta, one of our wonderful writers and a great chef as well, of course. And just walking into this place, this is the first time I've been here before, and from the second you get on the property, it's just absolutely stunning. And where we're sitting right now, we've got these huge windows with greenery surrounding us. It's just a beautiful spot.
It's gorgeous, but shame on you for this being your first time.
That's right.
I know, right? Hey, I'm breaking into this the local scene pretty quickly, though. We were at Wrigley Mansion recording an episode yesterday, and that was beautiful. I was telling Christina, and then we come here. It's been a wonderful work week, to say the least.
A nice doubleheader.
I was going to say, you get to go with Chris, and he's amazing.
Yep.
He's just a great guy.
Yeah, that was an awesome podcast, and them, along with everyone else we've interviewed so far, just wonderful people in the industry, always welcoming us, as you did here right now. And we've got essentially a buffet at this point of wonderful food to snack on. And
it smells amazing.
I mean, I've literally only had one fry, and it was probably the best fry I've had in maybe my life at this point.
Yeah, we just got a couple of items. Really, from 2 of them are from lunch, 2 are from dinner, just so you can have a little taste, and we'll have some more stuff later.
Could you make a round and describe them to us?
Please,
Yeah.
yes.
So we have our pasta bolognese, which is actually my executive sous chef's recipe, Maria Ryan. She's phenomenal. It's her recipe that she uses for that, and we have like a mascarpone and ricotta whip on there as well, and the pasta we make in-house with our extruder and everything, so that's a lot of fun. We have a muffalata. We wanted to put one of those on the menu because you don't really see them, like you mentioned earlier. You don't see them anywhere, so we wanted one of those. We're using bread from up in Prescott with James Porter, his from Breadworks, and the bread is phenomenal for it, so we have that. Then we just have our turkey club, which we sell boatloads of, so we have to do that. That's on his focaccia. We do a grain mustard aioli, and then our Perno mussels with Italian sausage. So
I mean, just looking around it, it's some of the most beautiful food I've seen before. Even the bread, the focaccia on the turkey club, I'm looking over at it right now, and it looks like a work of art, especially with the sun coming in the way it is. It's just, it's magnificent.
And I can't wait to try James' bread.
it's so good. Like, it's really good.
Why? What drew you to that bread?
Well, there's 2 main bread companies that I like to use. I love Noble and I love James. Just it's for both of them, it's really the quality. I mean, the quality is amazing. Placing the orders, believe it or not, is extremely simple. I mean, he's up in Prescott, but I can place an order by 11 o'clock in the morning, and I get it by the next morning.
Wow.
Which I can't even get that down in the valley.
True service.
So, and it's absolutely phenomenal. And, you know, you want to, the thing with this industry and the people in the valley is we like to support each other. And James used to have restaurants down here, and then he went up into Prescott and opened his business up there. So, yeah, we want to support as much as we can. And I know he's being used by so many different places, again, because the product is fantastic. You know, he does a really, really nice job. You can feel and taste the passion in the bread that he makes.
Well, and it's a pretty incredible thing that we've gotten to a point in Arizona cuisine where most of the things that you would need that are available here in Arizona, like bread or cattle or things like that, you can find a local provider that's not only doing it, but they're doing a good job at it, and they have their own little twist. Perryland and Cattle, if you're familiar with them, is someone who we featured in the most recent issue of the magazine. And their story just is so awesome to me because they're taking green waste from landscaping and then composting that to feed their beef, which is incredible. And then they also do like the spent grain thing where they take wort, not exactly spent grain, but they take wort from Four Peaks, feed that to their cattle, and then some of the burgers on Four Peaks menu is using that beef. So it's incredible to see all the local connections and, like you're saying, helping people out that are in the local Arizona food industry. Mm-hmm. What has your experience been like with the local food industry beyond the bread that you just mentioned having on your menu?
It's been amazing. I mean, if you just talk about restaurants alone, we have phenomenal restaurants out there, and it's so funny because I'm old now. I'm like one of the old chefs, but I remember when I first started out here. I was back with Bo as well. We were one of the new chefs on the scene back in the day, and now we're the old farts. And you got like all the young kids. You paved
the way for the next generation.
Well, they paved their own way. They carved it out themselves. They've been amazing. But we see these guys that worked for us and now have their own places, and they've gone off and done bigger and better things. And It's so weird because you kind of feel like a proud dad when you.
It must
you
be
see
so heartwarming.
It is. It's amazing. Like I'll talk to one of my guys who's out in Texas and who has his own food truck out there now, and it's like it's amazing talking to him. And then, Albert Teresi with his food truck. I'm like,
Yeah, I'm a big fan of him.
when he opened that, I mean, like I welled up because it's like, wow, this guy. I know who he is. I know where he's from. I know what he's been doing. I've worked with him, and just seeing how much he's grown and what he's doing now, and it's phenomenal. I mean, it really, really is. And it doesn't just go from that, to restaurants, but then you have people that were chefs like Tandy, who's going into her own direction doing chocolate, so.
Have you tried the chocolate too? It's amazing.
It is to die for. And that's the thing.
I have a bar sitting in my fridge right now.
So do I. But you can taste her passion in it, and that's the thing is you can taste and you can see people's heart and soul. Like this town has evolved so much over the past 20 odd years.
And I love how everybody embraces Arizonan roots, whether it's the passion or the ingredients they use, because you have the talent, but then you also are putting it on a platform. Like, did you know Arizona has this? Do we have these artisan chocolate makers who is also a gifted chef in my cookbook, by the way.
Phoenix Cooks, check it out online.
But, the grains that we grow, the heritage things, I think people think of us sometimes as a barren desert. They don't realize the agricultural riches.
Oh, absolutely. And it doesn't just go on the food. We've got the beverage side as well. I mean, like you've got Huss Brewery. Their stuff.
Yes,
I mean,
I'm a
Chip
big
and his
fan
beers
too.
are amazing. And then you got Cider Core out in Mesa. It's like we have all these amazing breweries that have popped up, and they're doing a fantastic job. And it's not just a good job or a fantastic, it's amazing. The stuff they're turning out, it's award winning. It's better than stuff you can get most places anywhere in the States, I would say.
I agree.
And I think we're just one of those cities that's just gone above and beyond and taken off.
And I feel like we're just on
starting.
the beginning of the trajectory. So if this is what we're getting now.
It's pretty incredible because it's obviously very intentional and does take a lot of effort, but it's done so seamlessly by people like yourself that it looks effortless. From Noble Bread to Cider Core, two very different businesses and products that you're creating, but two people that I'm sure there's some way they're connected one way or another, whether it be, I assume you have Cider Core on here or have had it before because you mentioned them. Am I correct in assuming that? We've
had it before, yeah. And I want to get it back on, but I've also had it when I go out, and if I'm heading out to Mesa, then I'll actually pop in there and get a drink. So.
Well, the fact that a place like this, you could have at one point had Cider Core, and then you can have Noble Bread, and then you can have James Porter's bread that you have on now. It's just the connections are so interwoven. As a consumer, it's really incredible to see the way everyone has kind of through one way or another connected, and that's something that you mentioned how novel a lot of the companies are. Cider Core is only a handful of years old. I don't remember exactly how many, but look at how far they've come since they've opened up. And honestly, like when I go in there and I try their ciders, it's some of the most out there flavor combinations, but they're putting them together in a way that's delicious. And I never would have thought mango habanero cider, I believe that's one of theirs.
Yeah,
I never would have thought that would have been delicious, but of course it is. And so to see the way that Arizona's culminating is really exciting.
Oh, it's fantastic. And the amazing thing is how humble everyone is. I mean, you can go to other cities and chefs can be arrogant. I mean, and there's a couple here in town, but it's few and far between. Like, there's such humility. I mean, I remember, like, literally my first 2 weeks when I was here, when I first moved to the Valley, I went to Bar Moosh, which was Mark's place back in the day. I went there for reverse happy hour. And as I was walking in, he was walking out. And I just recognized him from a picture. And I'm like, oh, are you Mark Tarbell? And he's like, yes. I said, well, I just moved here. I'm sous chef at Royal Palms, and I was just coming in. He's like, oh, come back. And he came down, sat with me for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and had a drink with me. But he was on the way home, but he welcomed me into town, and I will never, ever forget that. And what an amazing person he is.
That's the epitome of gracious hospitality.
Yeah. And then you have like Bo McMillan. He's the same. He's like larger than life, his personality. He's on TV all the time, but he still has time for everyone around here. Like the chefs that he's known, he's always been promoting Arizona.
Yes.
Like when he did Iron Chef, he didn't just do Iron Chef for him. he represented the Valley, and he brought Food Network, I would say personally, to the Valley on a more wider platform. Like, they came in and they filmed a lot more. And I say because of him, because of his character, his graciousness, and how they liked him, and so they followed him to Arizona to do filming. You know, he still does it to this day.
That's a good point.
You know, and that, I think that's when the explosion really started to happen. You know, and he got introduced Mark Tarbell onto Iron Chef as well, and things like that.
And you were on Iron Chef also.
Yep, I was on there too. But then them two were amazing because they both read this Iron Chef book, which they both signed and gave to me.
Wow.
Because I was the third, so it was such a camaraderie. The difference is they won, I didn't. But hey, what are you gonna do?
But I should add, by 1 point.
It was by 1 point.
And he also won the highest scores on the judges' taste tests. So.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, but it was fun. But I mean,
what was the secret ingredient? It was ham.
ham? Yeah. So the one ingredient I didn't want. So it wasn't my favorite. But no, like I say, I mean, you got people like Bo who's just so humble, and he wants to involve so many people. Like when he does Best Thing I Ever Ate, he's always got someone here, like whether it's the mission with
Right. I know he's done Fat Ox.
Yeah, he's done so many of them, and it's great. You know, you've got him, and then, you know, just the people here are amazing. Erin May, I mean, another one. You know, again, larger than life, but
so fun.
He's hilarious to talk to, and he wants people to experience Arizona. He wants to bring people here, and you know, and he has. He did. A lot of people
for that
here.
last festival. He brought a lot of his Food Network friends.
Yeah, absolutely, he did. And you know, and I remember one night just after we reopened, he was in the bar with Todd English, and they both came through while I was washing dishes. You know, and Todd's like, "What are you doing, dude?" I'm like, "I'm doing dishes." So, but it's just amazing.
I think at this point, Mark Tarbell probably thinks we're stalking him because we hit him up for every single issue of A Taste of AZ, and sometimes in multiple articles as well. He was actually one of the people that was mentioned in the Perryland and Cattle article that I referenced a couple minutes ago, because he has some of their stuff on occasionally. And it's incredible to see how welcoming the people are, even to me, who's somewhat of an outsider. You know, we linked up with Christina probably a year and a half ago for a podcast on Tap That AZ podcast, my business partner Eric's beer podcast, and ever since then, working with Christina, she's just been so gracious with her time and setting up podcasts with things like this. So it really is a wonderful scene to be a part of. That being said, let's dig into your history a little bit. Tell us a little bit about where you grew up.
Okay, well, I was born in 1969 on 20 Victoria Street, Greenwich, London. That's actually true. I was born in Greenwich, London, which was back then in the sound of the Bow Bells, so I'm a proper Cockney.
Oh, like Mary Bow Church, or was it?
Yeah,
or something?
Bow Church, yeah.
Bow Church.
So the story is back in the day when you didn't have all the traffic, when they rung the bell at Bow, if you could hear the bell, you were a Cockney. And then once the sound of the bells were lost, then you were just a Londoner.
So you're a true Cockney.
So I'm a true Cockney because I was in Greenwich and you could hear them. It was right on the outskirts, but I'm still a Cockney. So I was born there, and then as a kid, we moved to Australia. My parents did a thing called a 10-pound pom, and that was where they wanted to basically have people emigrate to Australia to boost their economy and everything like that. So for £10, they would fly you to Australia, put you up, get you a job, and get you set on your feet. Yeah. Wow. So we did that in the 70s, and then again in the early 80s. So I did it for 8 years total.
And it was Perth, right? Or
no, it was about 1,000 kilometers north of Perth.
I've been to Australia, but we only stayed on the other coast. And we never
so you're on the eastern coast. Yeah, we used to live on the western. So the thing about the first place we lived was a place called Mount Newman, which is in literally the middle of the outback. There was nothing. It was just red dirt because it was full of iron ore, which is what the mining was. So we were there, and then we went to a place called Dampier, which was where they shipped the iron ore to Japan. And what's really cool is it was very much like Phoenix / Sedona, but on the beach. So
it sounds incredible.
It was amazing. And we had to swim inside of a shark cage as kids. It was like 25 feet by 50 feet.
Wow.
Yeah, because of like great whites and tigers and
just some little sharks, nothing big.
Nothing to worry about. So
every kid's childhood.
Yeah. Well, what we used to do, we were stupid, really. We used to go on top of the cage, and as barracuda or jellyfish were going through the bars, we'd jump on them.
Really?
Yeah, because we.
I was gonna say, did you ride the sharks or something like that? But I mean, that's close enough.
Yeah, we were pretty dumb as kids. It's stuff you didn't think about. So, and then we'd sit there and fish.
Aquatic research,
Off the
I
end.
think.
Yeah. And we'd sit and fish off the end of this cage, and we didn't use rods or anything. It was like the feeder, like you'd buy the line on this reel that you would feed onto a regular fishing reel. So we'd just use the actual feeder, put a couple of weights and a hook, piece of meat, swing it around your head and throw it out. And I remember one day this one kid, he was spinning it around, let go of it too early, and as it came back, he caught himself in the back of the head.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so
Good thing children are resilient.
yes, they were back then.
Somehow the children themselves were more dangerous than the great whites
Yeah.
and barracudas and everything swimming around.
Exactly. So yeah, we were raised in Australia, and that's how I really got into wanting to be a chef. Because my parents, they had a house, because we were a family, they were given a house, and it was called the Hilson Hotel. So a lot of the single people would come to our house and they'd take it in turns cooking. And one of my parents' friends would come over, he'd cook steak, so I'd sit there and I'd watch that, and he'd marinate it. My dad would make marmalade on ice cream, and so I just really got into the whole cooking thing then. And we moved back to England, did my high school. I graduated that at 15 and a half. Started culinary school just before I was 16. Graduated culinary school at 18, and then I moved to America for the first time.
Wow.
Yeah. So
So what
Austin,
brought
right?
you to
I think.
America?
huh?
What brought you to America? Just
An
searching?
airplane. Yeah.
I figured.
Yeah. But no, I it was so funny because I actually split up with a girlfriend, and we're still good friends to this day, believe it or not. I split up with a girlfriend, and I met a friend when I was working in London, and I said, I just split up with my girlfriend. She goes, well, why don't you come out to Austin, Texas and work for a bit? I'm like, well, sure, why not? So I phoned up the Hyatt, funnily enough, and the chef there said, well, if you can get a visa, then we'll employ you. And I managed to get a J1 visa, and I went out there. I was there for 2 years. And then I had to fly back to England because my visa expired, and I went back. Worked for the Roux brothers for a couple of years in pastry. Le Gavroche and Roux Patisserie, yep.
And I think that was the first restaurant in London to get a Michelin star.
3 Michelin stars,
3
yeah.
Michelin
yeah.
stars.
Yeah, that was owned by Michel
And I know
Roux.
he had a famous roommate, too, that you might have heard of.
Gordon Ramsay. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we were roommates for a while. And he was actually a very nice guy. I mean, like you see him on TV, he wasn't like that. He was a really cool guy. And one day my mum was coming up to visit, and I went to pick her up at the bus station, and we had groceries and stuff like that because we were poor and destitute as cooks back then. So she brought up a bunch of groceries, and he came downstairs, grabbed the groceries, took them upstairs for her,
Wow.
and he's like, asked which room she was planning on sleeping in, and I said, oh, she's just going to bunk up in one of the bunk beds in the room I'm in, because it was 3 sets of bunk beds because it was just chefs rotating. And he's like, no, that's not happening. So he washed his sheets and gave my mum the room for the night.
Wow.
So he was really, really cool, just a nice guy.
I've been to his restaurant on Royal Hospital Road.
Oh, yeah.
In London.
I went to that before it was his restaurant.
Oh,
It used to be owned by Pierre Kaufman. It was called Pierre de Terre.
Wow.
And I went there, and it was absolutely fantastic. But I haven't been to that one. I went to the one in, I think it was called the London, up in New York. When you had that.
I wanted to get there. I didn't.
Yeah, I've done that one, but...
And I think you worked with Marco Pierre White, too, right?
no, I knew Marco.
Okay.
That was back when him and Marco actually got on. Gordon was Marco's kid's godfather.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so Marco would phone up all the time. And I remember one time Marco actually picked up he phoned and I picked it up, and he's like, is Gordon there? And I'm like, no, he's out. He's playing football. And he goes, well, who are you? And I'm like, I'm Lee Hillson. He goes, where do you work? I said, Roux
So
Patisserie.
his personality is what you see.
Oh, yeah. He's like, where do you work? I'm like, Roux Patisserie. He goes, oh, good, I can talk to you then. Right, 'cause-
You're worthy.
Yeah, pretty much. But again, he was a nice guy. I mean, so, but yeah, and then Stephen Terry was one of the other owners of the flat, because it was him and Gordon that owned the flat. And, Stephen Terry went on to do huge, amazing things. And
How old are you around this time?
18.
So, I mean, that's a pretty far to have come along at 18 years old, right? Not too many chefs are hitting that level. was it just pure passion that was pushing you through, or was it something more than that?
No, it literally was just passion. I mean, I'd always wanted to, like I said, since I was knee-high to a grasshopper, I'd wanted to cook. And back then, it was just, you did it. You got up at stupid o'clock in the morning, worked all day, all night. You'd get home about 12:30, 1 o'clock after shutting down the restaurant, go home, sleep for like 4 or 5 hours, get up and do it all over again. And it was just pure passion. I was a pastry chef at the time, and I loved it. I mean, it was amazing.
It's so inspiring that all of you have gone on. You know, that some of the roommates or people you've mentioned have all gone to such acclaim and accomplished what you accomplished. So,
well, I haven't accomplished what they have, but yeah.
Well, you have though, but in a different arena.
I mean, it is really funny, and like you sit back and you realize what people had to put into it and how hard they had to work. It's never been a 55-hour work week or anything like that. It's always been way past that.
That's one of the things that I love about food and beverage is, I asked you, was it pure passion that pushed you through? And after I asked that, I kind of felt silly because at this point I should know that that's what it is, because we've talked to a handful of people recently, from you to Christopher to Alex Strada, and then even Michael Marcus of Mother Road up north. And just hearing them explain the sacrifices that they made to get where they are today. And it's pretty incredible. Christopher was explaining how he illegally immigrated over to Europe just to get his foot in the door and start, making stuff happen. He said he wrote 1,000 letters or 100 letters or something like that to finally get a job at a place where they were paying him not very much, and trying to dodge the French police. So, well,
Mark too, he shared that story of how persistent he was.
Seriously,
to follow up, and he said, I feel like they finally were just like, okay, if you never contact us again, you're in at the school. So.
It's true. Well, what's really funny is back when I just graduated culinary school, like I say, when I was just about 18, I was writing for jobs all around the world, and I was going through the Relay and Chateau Guide and luxury hotels of the world, and I was literally writing to all these places. And what I didn't realize back then is I actually applied at the Boulders when Chuck Wiley was the chef there and Mark Tarbell was there. And I remember writing a letter, and Chuck actually wrote back, he's like, unfortunately we don't sponsor, so we're not able to. And then it wasn't until I moved out here, started at Royal Palms, and then remembered that I'd applied at the Boulders all those years prior.
That's so funny.
Yeah, and then like meeting Charles, not realizing that he was the guy that I'd written to. And
when did you figure it out? Like years later, probably.
Yeah,
right?
probably a couple of years later, after like being out here and talking to Chuck and realizing that he was the guy that I would have written to, and and then talking to Mark, and Mark was at the Boulders, and like it was all around the same sort of time type thing. Like, wow, it's. I always tell people this is such a small world, and that you have that game 7 Degrees of Kevin Bacon,
right?
And it's the same with chefs. You can't piss anyone off. You cannot afford to, because literally you're going to screw your career if you upset chefs, because they know everyone literally worldwide, and it's funny.
It
funny. Really, really is.
Good thing everybody loves you, Lee. So.
I don't know if everybody does, but it's always nice. But it's funny how I've had to change and adapt over the years. Like when I first took over here, I'm the first to admit I was a tyrant. I mean, when I interviewed, I would tell people, just so you know, your mother, your father, your brother, your grandmother are not safe. I will use their name in vain. And I used to, I would threaten to come around the other side of the line, and I'd kick people off the line. I wasn't
physically kick them off the line.
Not physically kick them, but I would literally push them off and take over their station, and that was it. I remember one night we had a really bad service, and they were sat outside. This is probably like 18 years ago, and I gave everyone movie tickets at the end of the night, and they're like, "What are those for?" I said, "Well, I just want to say congratulations. I've never seen anyone the way you have. I've never seen such a bad service in my life."
So backhanded.
Yeah, so I gave them movie tickets because it was a first. But I've changed a lot now. Right. I don't yell. I don't yell in the kitchen. I yell at home, but not in the kitchen.
What do you think shaped that? Because growing as a young chef, that was kind of the norm.
That was
right?
totally was the norm.
And
I
you
mean,
learn from experience,
Yeah.
and you learn from what you're exposed to.
Oh yeah, I mean, I got a scar here from where one of my chefs threw a pot at me, and I ducked and I hit it on a table and cut my eye.
Wow.
But it was the norm.
Right.
You just, sorry, chef, you wiped it up and you carried on because you wanted to be that chef. And so I think
You realize that isn't necessary.
it isn't necessary, and people change.
Right.
You know, I
And-
mean, like kids nowadays, like my kids are so different from how I was as a kid. And I think my expectations of them are too high. I'm the first to admit it. I hold them very, very accountable. And I'm probably too strict on them. But that's how I used to be in the kitchen. That's how I was brought up. And now you can't do that. You can't say certain things.
But it
can't
shows a
act
certain
ways.
strength that you change that attitude and that. You
Yeah,
know,
and
you-
I think a lot of the chefs out there now have. I mean, I'm sure if you, Chris Gross is probably the same. He probably doesn't yell like he did in the
Right.
kitchen back in the
Well,
day.
I think
And
it's good
Vincent.
because a lot of people address chefs that act like that without giving credit to chefs who have changed or
Mm-hmm.
have seen over the years that it's much better to treat my employees kindly than
Yeah, I mean, you treat them kindly. You take more time out. You make the effort with them, and I'm the first guy. If my guys want something off, I'll work before they do. I know some chefs that don't work Christmases or any holidays, and even my guys here, they're like, "Why are you still here?" It's like, well, if I'm expecting you to work, then I should be here.
I mean, you've been caught
So-
washing dishes with Todd English, so
Yeah, I mean, you do it
By
because
judging.
you've got to set that example. You know, I think you've got to make them want to emulate you. One of the things I've always told my guys as they're growing up is take the things you like about me and make them you. Take the things you don't like about me and don't make them you. So if you don't like how I show you or talk to you on a certain level, then don't do that. Learn from that and make yourself better. You know?
Well, I've never had to dodge a pot just to smack my face on a table before, so maybe I'm being a little bit naive here, but it doesn't seem like a coincidence that some parts of that environment cultivate people like yourself or other people that go on to become big name chefs. And obviously there's been somewhat of an evolution, and people are including myself now witnessing that from the outside as the industry kind of evolves and whatnot. But it's not an easy job. It's not easy by any means. You're working long hours, like you're saying. You're having to work Christmas and things like that, even though you put in the work for many years. And so if you do want to hit that level, you have to kind of accept some of the components of what that comes along with. And having people like yourself and others that have evolved to the way things are now, but still setting an example of working hard and whatnot, is one of the reasons I think why Arizona, the food and beverage industry, is becoming what it is, because you see these owners of breweries or large-scale chefs like yourself that are still putting in those extra hours to make the experience that they want consumers to have manifest.
Yeah, I mean, you want everyone to come in and have the best meal that they've had, and unfortunately, it doesn't always happen. I mean, we all make mistakes, and if you do, then I think as a chef, you've got to be humble enough to be able to reach out to that guest and say, "Hey, I'm sorry you didn't have a great experience. Please come back. Let me give you give me another shot." And I'm not inviting you back because I'm sorry. I'm inviting you back to thank you for telling me about your situation, because
I
we
tell
can't get
people
any
that,
better.
the people who go home and complain,
Yeah.
like, why didn't you say something at the restaurant?
Yeah, because we can't get any better if we don't know about it.
Right.
So,
Because if you say something at the restaurant and they still, well, then that is more telling.
yeah.
But if you don't say anything, then how do you know?
Yeah, you can't evolve, you can't get better. So it's really it's an amazing industry, and like you say, there's a big toll on chefs, and we need to change how people are treated, which is why I think I've become very different as far as that goes. You need to treat people different. There needs to be a work balance and the whole mindset, because it's one of those industries where it's really, really hard on you. And you've got someone like Anthony Bourdain, for instance, that, everyone thought he had it. They thought he had everything, but he was so depressed.
Right.
But you didn't.
It's a window into
Yeah.
into what
And-
the life of a chef is.
Yeah, and that's that's something we've got to try and improve in this industry, and I think one step at a time. I think we're getting there, but it is going to be hard. And I think the younger generation has taught me how to probably open up and have a softer side,
that it's not a weakness.
Yeah.
It's it's a bonus.
It is, yeah.
Right.
So I think you never stop learning, and I think they've taught me that. Like my exec sous chef back there, Maria, I've learned so much from her because she's a
And
different
by the way, that
generation.
was delicious because I just had a
Yeah,
bite
she's
of Maria's
phenomenal.
bolognese.
She's
Thank you, Maria.
She's a phenomenal chef. She really is. But she's taught me how to, become a softer, chef. I mean, I'm soft and pudgy as it is anyway. But just be a bit more rounded and a bit more accepting on things. So I think it's good.
Which benefits the whole workplace.
Yeah, absolutely.
The atmosphere and.
Well,
makes
not
it
to
fun.
say that chefs of before were not mature, but it seems like a maturation of the industry and the next evolution of the industry. And at the same time, there are certain qualities, like you were saying, that should carry on, because if you want to be the best of anything that you're trying to do, it is going to take sacrifices. And sometimes those sacrifices are that's what keeps people from becoming the best at what they're doing, is people don't want to make those sacrifices. And so to see someone like yourself that not only is incorporating the new vulnerability that you're speaking about, but also working Christmases and things like that, that's exactly what any industry should kind of emulate. And you don't see that across all sorts of different industries, but for some reason food and beverage seems like it's becoming one of the most evolving industries that I've at least personally witnessed, as opposed to
That's a good point.
an internet service provider. You don't see the CEO of Cox going out and working Christmas to make sure everyone has their cable going. So
No, but what cracks me up is you get all these people that, if they don't work Christmas, or if they're being asked to work Christmas in different industries, they complain about it. It's like, I've got to work Christmas. But then they're the same people that will go out on Christmas Day and have dinner. It's like, but you're happy to have someone else work for you. So it's like, okay.
That's true.
I think people are beginning to understand that more and more with just kind of the transparency. People that never really understood anything about the restaurant industry are now seeing it because of social media and things like that. And I think as every industry becomes more transparent in the age of the internet and whatnot, people are kind of coming to terms with the fact, where is my food coming from? Who is cooking it? People are becoming more and more aware of the labor crisis right now that is,
Yeah, we
not only
touched upon
affecting-
that the last time I talked to you about the. Are you still experiencing staffing shortages?
Yeah, no, we are. And we were very, very fortunate that Alyssa, our HR, she was out there from the get-go and trying to get people back on board. So we've been fortunate. We're not struggling as much as some places, but as we're going to head back into season again, we're obviously busier, and especially with events and banquets, we're going to need more people.
Do you find that the people that you are finding are more passionate about the industry because of the changes that have happened, whereas, they really have to love the job to be able to...
Yep. To an extent, yes, absolutely. There's more of that.
As opposed to somebody using it as a stepping stone to another industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I like to say there's more chefs out there now, if that makes sense, because I always have this philosophy that it doesn't matter where you're working. You could be working at McDonald's, but if you're loving what you're doing in that kitchen, then to me you're still a chef, because a chef will cook from the heart and a cook will cook from a wallet. So that's
words of wisdom.
So
Seriously, that's a great quote right there.
So I don't care where you work. If it's passionate, then you're a chef. That's just my philosophy, and I'm seeing a lot more of that now. To an extent, there are more people that are passionate in cooking from the heart.
So let's circle back to when you arrived here at Royal Palms. What was it like when you first arrived? Was it a bit of a culture shock, and how was it kind of settling in here?
Well, it was funny because I was actually on my way to the Ritz at the time to apply for a job, because I'd heard of the Ritz and stuff like that, obviously, because we had a Ritz in London, even though it was a completely different, it's not even the same company. So, but I was heading on the way there down Camelback, and I saw the Royal Palms was having a job fair. So I'm like, I'll just pull on in. And so I came in, and I'd been an executive chef before in Rhode Island. And I pulled in, and Derek Morgan back then was the executive chef, or executive sous chef, and Michael Hubler was the executive chef. So I came in, filled in an application at the job fair, and they're like, would you hang on, because I'm sure Derek's going to want to talk to you. So Derek came out, and we interviewed for probably a good 50 minutes. And probably 45 minutes of that was talking about English football, and 5 minutes was about food.
You had to feel pretty confident at that point, right?
we clicked, and I left him like, okay, if they offer me a job.
You never got to the Ritz.
No, I never got to the Ritz. I'm like, if they offer me a job, I'm taking it. Derek walked back here to Hubler and said, I found the guy we're going to hire. And I came in and I was a lead line cook. And I took a pay cut and everything to work here. And it was just amazing. And I loved the property. I mean, I totally fell in love with it, because what's not to love about it? It's gorgeous. And then I worked my way up to a sous chef position. Then Derek took over as the exec chef. Then he left, and then they brought in Gregory Casali, and then he left after a couple of years, and I was actually on Rhode Island on vacation, and Greg Miller, the GM at the time, phoned me up and he goes, hey, do you want to become the executive chef there? I'm like, yeah, sure. So I came back off my vacation and took over as exec chef in, I think it was 2004.
Was it that nonchalant of a conversation, or is that you just playing it cool? Did you get off of it? Yes.
Pretty much. Yeah. I mean, I was like, I could do it. And it was an amazing. It was like a euphoria. It was an amazing feeling. And I came back, and I was here for another 8 years as the executive chef.
When I came here for the first time, it was Lee who was chef.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
You did that taco contest.
Oh, with the Tucker, yes. God, what was it?
They had people on Facebook give ideas for
A taco.
a taco,
Oh,
because
okay.
you used to have like a taco happy hour.
Yeah,
or
I used to do
something.
Taco Tuesdays, and it's really funny because people look at me like, oh my God, my mind's gone blank. He's over at the Merc Bar, and he has his Gato Taco place as well.
Oh, Rick Phillips?
Yeah, Rick Phillips. There was Rick, and then, oh gosh. He does the pizza one and everything. Does all the shows now. Is it David Tyder?
Oh, yeah.
And
David is
Silvana.
Rick.
Like, they're like, what the hell does a Brit know about tacos? But we started this $2 tacos, and it started off with like, we maybe sold 5 tacos. And then within 3 or 4 months, Tuesdays were packed. Like, trying to get a spot at the bar was unbelievable. People were standing room ready. And I did a thing on Facebook. What would you like to see for your taco tonight or tomorrow? And so people would send in their ideas, and I would choose a taco and replicate it and make it.
So he chose my duck taco one night.
Oh,
So
no
I did
way.
have duck tacos one night, and so it was just cool. But I mean, it really took off, which just blew me away. And it was true. It was like, what does a Brit know about tacos? And that was
And
it.
that's how you end up on a duck taco, right?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that was such a fun thing. I totally forgot about doing that.
It was
That was
fun.
awesome. So yeah, so we did that, and we had the Taco Tuesdays, and then after I left here, I went to the Phoenician, and I was up there for, I want to say 3 or 4 years as the exec sous. And from there, I wanted to do banquets, because I hadn't really done a lot of banquets in my career. And the Sheraton Grand Wild Horse Pass, which was part of Marriott, so it's the same group.
I love that place.
It was Starwood at the time. I love it. It's a beautiful property.
And I know you know Ryan.
Oh gosh,
Swanee.
Swanee.
Hi,
I
Swanee.
love that dude.
I'm
He's-
overdue. Haven't been there since COVID, but
I know that guy. He's like, to me, he's like just a bag of humbleness. Like, the guy is a food god to me.
A humble pie, so to speak.
Yeah, pretty much.
he's pretty amazing. His talent is through
Yeah.
the roof, and
And-
he's such a good soul.
He really is, and you think of Kai, you think of him. Like, I couldn't tell you who the chefs were prior. You just think of him and Kai.
He's been there for
Quite a while now.
quite a while now.
But he's actually, like, his awards have been amazing as far as that goes, because they had the highest Forbes 5-star rating ever.
Wow, I didn't know
Yeah, it was
that.
like 98.5.
Wow. I know they're the only 5-star, 5-diamond
Yeah,
restaurant
in
in
Arizona. And they were actually ranked the top Forbes restaurant in the world.
Wow. And it's right in our backyard.
It is. And, you've got him. He's such a talent. And he'll go out foraging for wolfberries. Like, he'll just go out and he'll go hunting them and stuff like that.
That's another cool, just a little footnote here, is how much amazing food grows wildly in Arizona. I never realized that. I grew up here since I was 3 years old, and then you go out with Brett Vibber one time, and your mind kind of explodes because you just walk past a bush and you're like, that's nothing. And then he pulls 3 edible ingredients from a 10-foot radius and you're like, good God, this is unbelievable.
I haven't been
didn't even
out
know
with
this
him
stuff.
yet. I so want to go out and do something with him one time. But yeah, I mean, it's amazing. You got everything because you got Prescott, you got Flagstaff, you got all these different.
Our Arizona mushrooms are amazing.
If they just blocked off Arizona and I could never leave the state again, I'd be pretty happy because you got wine, you got beer, you got spirits, you got places like this.
You got
that
seafood,
incorporate
Gila
it.
River shrimp, right?
Well, I don't know if they're about anymore, are they?
They were, then they weren't, then they were.
If they're back
And
again, I'm getting them again.
They were back again like 2 years ago.
Oh, then I'm
I'll
getting
have
them
to
back because
check.
their stuff was amazing. I used to use them all the time.
Yeah, it's a shrimp farm,
Yeah,
right?
in
In
Gila
Shrimp
Bend.
Arizona.
Taco Tuesday
Yeah,
in the works.
Shrimp Taco Tuesday. And then I know there's a farm out here that does barramundi
Really?
and tilapia. Yeah,
I know Sedona has a trout farm.
Yep,
too
they
there.
have the trout. So we're blessed with everything.
Barramundi.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm going to
So-
have to look into that.
yeah. So we're blessed with everything out here. We can get anything and everything. And then we have amazing artisanal butchers and stuff. Like there's one down on Indian School that we have. You have the one up on Cave Creek and
Shout out to Chula Seafood as well.
yeah,
They're awesome
Chula
over there.
Seafood. I mean, it's like
Yeah, I want to get to the one in the butcher in Cave Creek. I haven't been there yet. I've had their things at festivals, and then when Dom used to work there, I've been to Arcadia Meat Market. That's great. Hobie Meats. I love Shriners. I go in
Shriners
there and
is-
I'm like a kid in a candy store.
that place is amazing.
Yes.
It's so good. Yeah, we're just like, we have everything. Like, we're just so lucky. You know?
It's pretty wild because at this point, I feel like I've said it on every single podcast I've done this far, that Arizona just has an incredibly diverse food scene. But it really is pretty mind-boggling. I remember, so we posted the episode with Merkin, the podcast, and in that episode we referenced Crow's Dairy, sake, and it's just like, you could, if someone asked you to name 1,000 things that is produced in Arizona that you wouldn't expect, it probably wouldn't be as hard as it sounds because there is just so much diversity.
And
As a
new ones all the time.
yeah, new things popping up. As a chef, that must be incredibly exciting because you just got an endless thing of fun to have, right?
Yeah, oh, it's brilliant. I mean, you mentioned Crow's Dairy. I was just up there a few weeks ago. And
Hi, Wendell.
yeah, Wendell, he rock, dude. And we were in there and his niece was busy milking the goats. And I ducked down, he literally squeezes the milk straight into my mouth from the goat. And I'm no word of a lie.
Can't get fresher than that.
You can't. And I'm telling you what, the flavor is just second to none. And I remember as a kid having goat's milk and thinking, God, it's so rancid. How could you like it? But it's not.
Totally different when it's fresh.
And also the way they treat their goats, because the reason it's rancid like that is because it's kind of disgusting. But he was telling us all about, like, the male goats would go on to the female ones, they'd pee on them, get all over their teats, and that would change the flavor
Wow.
of the milk.
Hmm.
I would expect that might change the flavor a
Yeah,
little bit.
just a smidge,
And this
right?
is right after you just took a goat milk
Yeah,
spray
but those
from
are
the
clean
thing.
goats.
But yeah, he separates. He does all his
Sure.
separating. Like, going to his farm is amazing, and it was such a blast. But I got to taste the milk straight out of there, and then I got to taste it where it was chilling down. And again, when you had that milk, hours later you could still feel the fat coating in your mouth.
Wow.
Now
And
I
it was
want to
just-
take a tour.
It was amazing. Oh, you should do it. And then another great place to go, if you want to learn anything about like native foods and stuff like that, is the Native Seed Farm down on the way
I've
outside.
always wanted to go down there.
It is amazing. It's basically like a seed bank. So you can go down there. You can take a withdrawal on seeds. So you could
Wow.
get like a blue corn or something like that, but then you have to deposit other seeds. Or when you plant them, take some and replace them.
So like Hayden Flour
Yeah.
Mills, some
Okay.
of the grains that they grow now and distribute started with a little packet of seeds.
Wow.
From
Like
Yeah.
Sonoran white wheat or white Sonora wheat?
or like their purple fife.
The purple fife, everything. Yeah,
Yeah, I've
it's-
actually seen that before, and it's straight up purple. It's pretty incredible.
It
And I
makes
remember,
great pancakes.
Really? Yeah. They said that someone tried to make a beer out of it, and it came out a little bit more gray. And it's crazy
That would
how
make sense, yeah.
how agricultural things like beer are. You never really realize, but it's incredible everything that's going on in Arizona. And you think about where Arizona was 30 years ago, before I was even on planet Earth at that point. And
Jeez, I'm old.
I think I'm older than you, Lee.
I don't think you are.
We'll discuss after the podcast.
yeah, we don't need to record that. But I mean, it's incredible to think that 30 years ago, probably let's say 50%, probably more than that, of just the roads here didn't even exist, let alone all the infrastructure to have kind of the commerce and the market that's built out for food and beverage and everything else that's flourishing in Arizona. And now it's one of the fastest growing cities in the United States. It's pretty crazy to think about where we're going to be 30 years from now. And you're talking about the up and coming chefs that you see them taking the reins and kind of growing more and more and hitting levels that you might be at now or were a couple years ago. And I'm curious, what do you think might change in the next 10, 20, 30 years?
Wow. I think that there's going to be a lot more focus on everything local here in town. I think there's going to be a huge, because people are they're doing it now, and I think it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And I honestly do believe that the talent is just going to get better and better and better. And I think that this city is probably finally going to get the recognition that it deserves I don't mean just on a national level, I mean on a global level.
I agree.
Like you think of, if you're over in England or something like that, or even here, you think of great food cities, you think of Spain, you think of London, you think of New York, you think of LA. I think Phoenix is going to be on that list
because we're so
global.
distinctive.
Yes.
I think there was a time where people lumped us with, we're a little behind California, as if we're the same, but we are so different. Even the growing seasons. I have friends in California, and they're like, how do you get these tomatoes in January,
Yeah.
So I totally agree with that.
Well, and it even goes beyond just Phoenix alone. We talked a little bit about, your bread comes from Prescott, but Tucson just got recognized as, I believe, the United States' first city of gastronomy.
Yes.
Am I
Yeah.
correct in saying that?
Yeah.
Which is crazy, because that's probably the last city you would name in Arizona that you would expect to get an international culinary distinction, but it makes sense.
Once you delve into the history and then the whole,
Absolutely.
Sonoran wheat.
Yeah, and I can't remember her name, but the chef at the Ritz Dove Mountain down there,
Oh,
she's outstanding.
she is amazing.
Like
I'm
the
trying to think
stuff
of her
that she puts out is, like, I'll see her stuff on Facebook and it blows me away. And it's like,
I first had her dish at a festival in Tucson, and then we went and visited. That's a beautiful property.
It
And
is.
your wife works there, right?
she does actually work there. Yeah, well, she works from home, but does
It's
sales for it.
a gorgeous property.
But it's like,
it's kind of hidden away and tucked away, right?
yeah, I think it's one of 3 5-star 5-diamond resorts in Arizona. But you wouldn't think it. And it's just like, I've only ever been there once, and I was floored by it. I got lost. I went hiking.
You
and
walk
got
into
lost.
the lobby, and it's so grand. But like you said, it's kind of built into
like
its
valley.
environment.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
it's amazing, and that's what blew me away about the Sheraton Grand Wild Horse Pass too. Like, it's when the natives designed it, it was just so beautiful how they did it. Like, there's so much heritage. Like, all of the doors face a certain way.
There's a lot of thoughtfulness
Yes.
into it and meaning.
Yeah, there's no floors above 3 levels because it's to do with sacred numbers and just everything. I mean, it's just, you get awe-inspired when you're there, and I was blessed enough to meet Tommy White a couple of times there. And as an elder, you see this small man walk in and you literally want to bow in front of him. Because
Big in presence.
It's huge. And I had a sore throat one day, and he's like, "Are you okay?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "I think I've got a cold coming." And he's like, "Go down to the mesquite, take some sap." And so I went down there, and it cleared my throat up.
Wow.
Oh, man.
I was like, well, okay. But yeah, and then that place, the shaman will actually come in twice a year and bless the hotel. And you can actually be in one of the ballrooms while it's being blessed and be blessed yourself. It's the experience working there and just going there is amazing, because it's like a mini museum.
Yes.
Like, they have artifacts around.
Yeah, they have displays.
Yeah, the stuff that's priceless.
And then you go to the restaurant, and the menus are carved out of mesquite wood
Oh, no
with
way.
watercolor.
Yeah, up in
And
Kai,
they tell stories of, culture and and meaning behind that. And then even I think artwork on the wall is from employees who work there.
Yeah, there's calendar sticks that are made from the ribs of the saguaros. There's one piece in Kai. There's only 3 of them in the world, and it's absolutely priceless. One is at the Smithsonian, one is at a private collector in France,
I did not know
and
that.
one is there.
Wow.
Yeah, and
I guess we'll have to have Ryan on the podcast.
But you can't go wrong with him.
He has great stories.
He's
too.
like, yeah.
We'll talk about him fishing.
Well, and that might be another special aspect of Arizona. Is Arizona was, if my historical reference is correct, one of the last states to be developed in the contiguous United States. And so an unfortunate part of American history is that a lot of the native culture was kind of overwritten, especially the more east you go, the kind of more it was overwritten. But here, there has been such an embrace and a reverence placed on the native culture. And from the seed bank that you're describing, that's using seeds that were used before, Europeans even came over here and began to develop the United States, that's now being reused hundreds of years later to carry on those traditions, and not just in a way that is taking away from it, but that's adding to it, and people are using it to tell the stories that were historically how it was used. It's a pretty incredible thing, and to see chefs across Arizona embrace that ideology, to me, seems like one of the most special parts of how Arizona is developing.
And that's what Kai does, too. They source a lot from the indigenous farms around them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, most of his products are all local, which is outstanding down there.
That's where I first had choya buds.
Yeah.
And see, I remember Tammy, who's one of the people, she's now in Utah, but one of the people that has really been a proponent of kind of highlighting the native culture. We went on a foraging trip with her one time, and Brett as well, and they picked choya buds, and then they picked nopales, and they made almost like an egg scramble using nopales and the choya buds and whatnot. And it was a pretty incredible experience, because you're out there and you're burning hot, and I'm carrying my camera around, so I'm sweating and my back hurts and all that. But to sit down and have this meal that was cooked over fire in the middle of a desert along, a creek side, with stuff that they picked right out of the ground, it was really like almost a spiritual experience. It's like when you get so hungry from a long day of work that you finally have a meal, it tastes good even if you were eating dirt. That's kind of what it was, but it was even more connected to the earth, and it's a beautiful thing to see. And
And I love people like Ramona Farms, who is making that accessible for, let's say, the home cook, and her sharing her knowledge and history.
Well, and then on top of that, you get people like Arizona Wilderness that are then selling those tepary beans and kind of becoming a distribution point, not only for the product, but also for the knowledge and the information and the culture to persist on. And it's like we were talking about earlier, everything is so interconnected, and Arizona chefs buy into it so much. Even if they weren't born here or grew up here, they come here and seem to fall in love with the culture and the community.
And make good tacos.
Yes.
Yes, shrimp, duck, whatever it may be. So yeah, let's circle back to, we touched on how you went away from the Royal Palms for a little bit, and then you ended up back here. What have things been like for you since you've been here?
Well, it's been tough, because one, it's a different company, but two, we got hit with the pandemic just after I started back. So really, it's just you're trying to get back through and get everything back to a norm. But are we ever going to have a norm again? I don't know.
Right. It's not the norm we know.
Yeah. I mean, it's totally different. It's going to continue to be different. I think this place still has the beautiful charm that it's always had.
I think 1929 it was
as a
first. It was a private home, I
believe.
It
was a private home. Delos Willard Cook, he built it as his winter home, because he was from New York. In fact, this was his home from that side of the restaurant down.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and then
from here down was
just about here down.
So where Mix Up Bar is,
yep,
that was part of his home?
That was part of the home. Upstairs is where their private priest used to live.
Really?
Yeah, they had a priest who used to live up there, and it's said that he haunts the property. So
it's a pretty good gig, private priest and a winter vacation home in Arizona.
Yep, and then when it opened as a hotel originally, over by Cervantes, which is just over the other side, that was the original lobby back over there. So,
do they ever do tours here?
Yeah, they do. They do tours. They do guest tours at usually on weekends and things. Or if a guest says, "Hey, can I have a tour?" they'll take them out. But it's really, really cool. I mean, there's so much history. Like, it used to be, I think it was about 2 miles of 7-foot white fencing around
Wow.
when it was
Wow.
his private home.
Yes, I
'cause
think
all
he
of this,
it
he
was
owned
what,
everything.
65 acres or something when he first bought it,
think
or
it was
or the
sev-
land was
75, yeah.
75,
Yeah, and it was
wow.
all orange groves and everything. Like, Arcadia was all of his property. Like,
Wow.
all of this further down back there. And
I love that
Yeah.
part of history, especially, I'm a native New Englander, so after the show, I want to know where you were in Rhode Island.
Newport.
Oh, well, hello. So beautiful there. Of course, you were in Newport.
Yes. I love that place.
It is beautiful. We would travel, and they have the parades and the summer events down in Newport. And, of course, tour the mansions.
Oh, gosh, you got to do that.
Yeah.
And then you have to ride your bike around Ocean Drive. It's like a 10-mile circuit.
Gorgeous.
So it's so nice.
Anyways,
Something
off
yeah.
track again.
Yes.
But
yeah.
as Luke was saying, so you're back here. You must have
Yeah.
felt like you're back home.
Yes, most definitely. I mean, to this day, I still walk in and I love it. And what was really cool is seeing some of the old guests come back. You'll walk through the restaurant and there'll be someone there that was there 15 years ago. So it's really, really nice. And back in the day, this was where your parents would bring you for a special occasion or something like that as a kid. And so now I've seen those kids as adults coming back, bringing their kids. So it's really cool. You get to see all the families go through the generations, and it's one of those very, very special places. And like I say, it's very different from what it was. There's some things that are better. There's some things that aren't, but that's normal. That's a part of growth. But I think just the bones of this property, I don't think there's really nothing that can touch it in Arizona
I love
for me.
seeing somebody who's here for the first time. So it's neat to hear Luke's reaction, walking in.
Well, yeah, I'm personally so excited that I've been stealing bites of mussels and fries throughout the podcast, trying not to
I'm
make
stealing
it sound
because I can smell everything. And
Yeah.
But it's funny because our spa used to be a tennis court back in the day.
Wow.
Like, when I first started here, that was a tennis court. We
And
didn't
now
have a
spas
spa.
are more important than tennis.
Yeah. So, well, no one ever played on there, and it was all cracked up anyway. And now the spa down there is amazing.
That's an
So-
interesting part of Arizona is there's more tennis courts than any other type of recreational area. Like, I see more tennis courts than basketball courts or anything like that. I played lacrosse growing up, and you basically never see any lacrosse goals or anything anywhere. Whereas if you go to the East Coast, they're all over the place, and I'm like, man, maybe I should have moved to the East Coast as a kid. But it's funny to see how Arizona has evolved just since I've been living here. I'm relatively young in the growth of a city like Phoenix, but skate parks popping up, luxury apartments, all sorts of stuff. But places like this standing the test of time that are continuing on the tradition, and even the architecture in here and whatnot. It is modernized in a sense, but in the same way, it pays reverence, like we were saying earlier, to the historical significance of places like this, and it's a pretty incredible thing to see, and I'm sure it gives you a lot of inspiration as a chef. At least I would assume.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, the cool thing is, like, we're a Mediterranean-inspired restaurant, which is fantastic. And some people just think of the Mediterranean, they think of Italian food, and that's it. But you've obviously got everything. You got Spain, you got the south of France, you've got North Africa, you've got Turkey, you've got so many countries that you can feed off of. So it's always nice because we can do a dish, but then we can put our own little twist in it. So, like, our chicken wings, we have harissa grilled chicken wings. So they have a nice bite to them, and they're North African flavor. So it's really, really cool as far as that goes.
Well, and a lot of the climate here, at least in certain areas, is similar to that of the Mediterranean, from wine growing or olives. You've got Queen Creek Olive Mill growing olives and making olive oil out of it. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And then, like you say, I mean, so many great wineries out here now. I mean, I remember back in the day, if you wanted Arizona wine, you got Cocopelli. That was it.
Right. And I hear that, when I was writing the
Yeah.
Arizona wine book, I heard that a lot from people, and they, for a long time, because they were only exposed to novelty wines.
Yeah, you couldn't take it
They
seriously.
wouldn't even try other wines.
Yeah.
And so I'm happy to see, like, the trajectory of food, Arizona wine, I feel, is
It's
doing the
like
same
gone
thing.
huge. And then, like, obviously you got Pillsbury and Merkin and that, and then you've got oh my gosh, Milicevic, he's just opening his place
Oh,
down.
yeah, Pavle's wines,
place.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I can't wait to try them. I haven't tried them yet, but I remember when he was a server here.
I tried when he did the collaboration with Todd.
Uh-huh.
I tried his Los
Los
wines,
Milicevic, yeah.
So, but I haven't tried his new ones or been down there. I was down there when they were just kind of breaking ground.
Mm-hmm.
They hadn't even planted the vines yet, but I got to see the renderings.
Oh, cool.
The architecture studio they're working with, I've met one of them, and it's going to be stunning.
Yeah, I'm excited to try it. I haven't tried his stuff yet, but like I said, I remember when he was here as a server, he was so passionate about
I didn't
wine.
know he worked here.
Yeah, he was
I know he worked at Franco's.
Yeah, no, he was a server hit back here way back in the day.
Wow.
You know, and he
So
was just
Pavle
passionate.
is now co-owner of F&B, and
Okay.
Yeah.
he was the first one to put an all Arizona wine list.
I thought I recognized that name. Yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously, I mean, when it comes to mixologists, I mean, we've got so many good ones. I mean, like
I mean,
Jason Asher, I mean, just
yeah. Hello.
bounces off your bed,
I
and then
know.
you know, I
You've
mean,
been to Century Grand, I'm sure.
oh yeah, that place is just it's unique. It's just there's nothing you can say about
and
it.
not just unique for Arizona, unique for the country.
Yeah, I think the world.
The world,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I've never seen anyone.
Sorry, Jason,
what
I
he
meant
said.
the world.
I got your back, buddy. I've never seen anyone do what he was doing. I remember my mum when she was visiting one time. I said, "You want to go there for a drink?" But unfortunately, they weren't open. But we still walked in because we didn't realize it wasn't open. And Jason was actually at the door, and he gave us a tour, and
Nice.
he showed us like the train carriage and that. And he asked us if we wanted everything. We're like, no, you're not even open. We didn't realize. Sorry. But he's a great humble guy. You know, he just took the time out of his day to show us everything, and it was amazing.
Again, that he is so passionate, and
Oh,
he's
gosh, yeah.
mentored so many people. And
Well, same with Justin Beckett. I mean, like
Yeah.
his restaurant, and how many people has he mentored? I mean, it's like, and his food is just so good and honest.
it is. That's a great, good and honest.
You know, it's fantastic food. My wife and I, we go in there. We try and sneak in, but yeah, it's just so good. His chicken dish is off the chart.
Everything
Like
he makes
stuffing.
is, I think I referred to it as a warm hug, all his food, you know.
It's a great way to describe
Right.
it. You know, I mean, it's just fantastic.
Well, and then he's obviously teamed up with Scott and Katie Stevens,
Yes.
who we did a podcast with, and they're just wonderful people. They were very gracious.
Huge
and
proponents of Arizona
awesome
wine
guests.
and local. and-
Well, Scott used to work here back in the day too. He was.
Oh, man.
He used to
We're
work
gonna
in the
have
bar.
to do a story about who's worked at the
Yeah,
Like,
restaurant.
it's like I said, this industry is so incestuous.
I did a story on Mark Tarbell, the degrees, but literally you have to write a book. I feel like I crammed
Yeah.
like everything in because it was just not enough words. All the people that have worked with him or. that
Well, I
he's
remember communicating with you about putting that article together.
I
I'm
know,
like,
and
how is she going to pull
I
this one
couldn't.
off? This is
I
a tricky
actually
one.
was like, yeah, I was frustrated because there was so much information and I couldn't. So it wasn't, it would have been a book. Seriously, probably 300 pages.
Oh, easily.
At the same time, though, I feel like it, as much as you can fit into the pages we allotted you in the magazine, from, you have Joshua Hebert on one page with his, the ramen bowl there, and then you flip it over and you got Scott and Katie, and you're like, maybe for someone who doesn't realize the significance of these people and how, big they are in the industry here locally, but if you kind of understand the context a little bit more, flipping from that one page to the other, like, holy smokes, all these people have worked with
Jennifer
Mark.
Russo, I think I mentioned.
Yep.
Let's see, Josh, Stephen Jones,
Corey Uphold.
Corey. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that
It's huge.
I even did CCAP, did a quote in there because he does so much with charity that, Mark is very humble, as we all know. So
Yeah.
you don't hear what he does behind the scenes.
Oh, no, he's been with the CCAP for, countless
yeah,
years.
that's what she had told me. I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't realize.
Well, and the level of talent in just those handful of people that we named is astonishing. If those were the only few people of Arizona cuisine that you tried, you'd be a happy person, but it goes so much farther and so much deeper than that. It's pretty incredible.
And then he's great. He's a great performer too. He's a musician.
Yeah, he'll take the stage.
Yeah, he'll take the stage, and he looks like Davy Jones from the Monkees. So, he's the perfect guy,
Yeah,
really,
yeah,
isn't he?
yeah, man of all talents. for
Seriously.
sure.
So, if someone comes in here, what kind of dining experience should they expect? Is there any dishes they should gravitate towards that you would recommend?
Wow. Well, I love the bolognese. I mean, it's like one of my favorite
Yeah,
things.
you haven't tried that yet.
It's,
Lou.
No, I haven't, but I'm
It's-
excited.
I
for
just
it.
love it.
I love the whipped ricotta with it.
The ricotta's amazing on it.
It looks stunning.
I think for me, it's more about whatever you're in the mood for. I mean, I love our chicken dish. I mean, it was so funny because I wanted to do like a coq au vin, but not a coq au vin. So like on the last menu, and we still marinate it the same day. We marinate it in buttermilk, red wine, grain mustard, shallot, and thyme, and then we
Sounds delicious.
then we grill it and then roast it, and so you get like a little bit of a char on it and it just keeps it so moist. But it gets that little bit of the tang from the buttermilk and then some red wine.
And
in
it's
there
on the
too.
menu right now?
It's on the menu right now, but now that we changed the set from like potatoes, mushrooms, and stuff like that, so we have different sets with it now. The lamb, I'm a huge fan of. I think, did you have the lamb when you
I
came in
did.
last? Yeah.
Yes, it was
Like-
amazing.
Like I'm a huge fan of the lamb. The ribeye beef, I love. We actually get that from Argentina, which
Yeah,
they have an amazing
Argentine.
product.
They've been bringing in wonderful products. I've had their
yeah.
caviar, from Uruguay.
Yeah,
and-
the caviar's amazing. The saffron, I can't wait until I
Yes.
can get that on a full-time basis for my paella, because the saffron is off the chart.
I had it in a cocktail at Merck Bar for
Oh, wow.
for a Argentine shoot that hasn't come out yet, but
And
it
then
was
the
so fragrant.
oh, it's amazing. And then the Chilean sea bass
Yes.
that they have, it's
I've heard the restaurants
Outstanding.
that have had it are selling out.
it's outstanding. I mean, it's some of the best I've ever had.
And you have a wood or
A gaucho grill?
Yes, right.
Yeah, we did that. And we did a filming for Argentine, and I actually did the paella out on there because we're actually known for our paella. So I cooked that out there, and it was a lot of fun. But that's a dish you should have too, is the paella. It's a little different from how it used to be because we had the fireplace out here back in the day. So we'd spit roast our chickens out here. We'd have a chef out here every night. We'd do the paella, finish it in the wood oven. So now we do it very similar, but it's not finished in a wood oven. It's just finished in the regular oven, but it's still really, really good. And you get like 3, 8, 12 shrimp on it. You get mussels,
So like you would
clams,
share it
chorizo.
with somebody? Or eat the whole thing yourself?
Are you asking me, or I would eat the whole thing by myself? But there's a lot of food in it. Like you've got the chorizo, we've got the chicken, we've got the vegetables, we've got the shrimp, the calamari. It's a really good ratio to rice. So that's a fantastic dish. I think on lunch, I love the muffalata. I'm just a big fan of it.
Yes, I'm eyeing that.
Mhm. And then the club too, and the bread makes the club to me.
Well, and I love
That
how
bread is still
Yeah.
just.
it's so airy, but also the filling in your club. It's just that perfect ratio.
Thank you.
I hate when it's you get a couple slices of turkey and an anemic slice of bacon, but that
Yeah, no, you
if
gotta-
somebody is a
An
club
anemic
fan,
slice of bacon. Wow, that is a good description of what people serve them as typically.
Yeah, no, we like our bacon here. So, and then, I think really just anything and everything. I mean, and then the desserts, we're working with Noble Bread and having some stuff made for us, and we're finishing it. Or
and they have a pastry
components.
chef, Lance, right?
Lance Whipple, yeah, he
Yeah.
used to be the pastry chef up at Four Seasons.
That's where I met him at
So,
Four
and
Seasons.
he's outstanding, and it was so funny because we haven't returned to a pastry program yet, and we will do eventually. It's just like we haven't brought a pastry chef back yet. But I sat down with him, and I'm like, okay, I want desserts, but I don't want just like something that looks like it's out of a box. What can you do? And he goes, well, what are you kind of thinking with? I'm like, well, when you do culinary events and then you have all your little components, that.
I had a tart here
Yeah.
that was amazing, wonderful.
Yeah,
that
was
he had done.
the kiwi strawberry tart.
Yes,
Yeah, which
and
was
it's a work of it's beautiful.
it's stunning. It's really tasty. So that's one actually we did. He didn't do that one.
Oh well, your tart is delicious and
Yeah,
stunning.
we did it with a passion fruit cream in there and that. But like one of the ones he brought was this citrus olive oil cake, which is
Oh, I did
off the
that
chart.
too.
You had that too. and then
Yes, it's so moist
It's-
and
yeah.
the flavor's so complex, but it's light at
It
the
is
same
really
time.
light. And then we had that with like a caramel sauce, and then a native seed style crumble on it, and dried orange, and then mascarpone So it's really, really cool. So we're working with him on doing basically a version of a strawberry shortcake right now. So he's got this white velvet cake, which...
Just those words sound delicious.
It's outstanding. And then we're doing mascarpone, obviously, with that, and then a strawberry coulis, and then dried strawberries, and then compressed strawberries with it. So we're playing about with that. And then we're also going to do a lemon meringue tart, which we're going to be putting on the new menu. And we're working with him on making...
So he's customizing desserts for you.
Yeah. So we're working on him for the curd and things like that. So,
I love a good lemon curd.
Oh, me too. I'm all about it. That's the one time you want to punch on the side of the face, is when you've got like lemon curd in your face.
Maybe
like lemon
a pot
explosion.
thrown at you.
Yeah, you do. You want that pot thrown at you.
Well, awesome. I mean, this is it's crazy to talk with chefs like you that are embracing Arizona culture so much and having so much fun cooking for the people of Arizona. Is there anything in the plans going forward, or just keep cranking out food?
Keep cranking out food. I mean, we're doing music concert series once a month right now, which is fun. We're going to start getting onto the Gaucho Grill when things start to cool down. Maybe once a week we'll do a little event out there where we're cooking on it.
Keep me posted.
Yeah,
on those.
absolutely will. We'll do like a happy hour type thing out there. So we're just milling around with different ideas right now. Different things we can do, how we can just keep relevant. We'll get back to doing cooking demos at the fireplace area soon. Probably in hopefully the beginning of next year we'll get onto that once we're back in the stuff and a bit more comfortable. I know we're planning on a couple of wine dinners and champagne dinners.
So a lot of fun things on the horizon.
Yeah.
Great.
More than I thought, I guess. God, I'm going to be busy.
Awesome. Well, despite the busy schedule that is looming in the future for you, thank you so much for sacrificing some time and sitting down with us. Christina, you as well. It was a real pleasure chatting with you both.
Thank you. This isn't a sacrifice for me. This is a pleasure.
I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad to hear it. It's not really a sacrifice for me either. I mean, looking at this food in front of me, I'm pretty happy right now.
Good.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.